Morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever time zone you are in. We are so delighted to have you here with us today in another edition of EDU on Air, brought to you by Google for Education and your friends at Fried Tech. Here's our topic today: Gemini Youth Experience, powering learning with AI. We were here a few weeks ago and we talked about how Gemini could revolutionize the way you teach. So now let's flip the script and see how Gemini can revolutionize the way your students learn. So we're going to be focusing on the student lens today and showcasing how we can create with Gemini and Notebook LM for our students. Without further ado, allow us to introduce ourselves just in case you don't know who we are. This is my friend Lori. I'm going to have her introduce herself and tell you what she does first.
Hi, I'm Lori Roberts. I am a lead learning guide here at Fried Tech. Been here for about 3 years. Before that, I was a educational technology specialist. I was a high school CTE teacher, worn a lot of hats and used Google in
It's a lot
lots
of
of different
hats.
ways. But I told Daryl I got the queen of the admin panel in my last job, so we can help you
There you
today
go.
with all the things Google and AI.
I'm going to be relinquishing that control, giving it to you since you were the queen of that. And I'm Daryl Legaspi. I too work for Fried Tech. I'm an experienced designer, was a middle school science teacher for quite a bit. And now here I am with Fried Tech and happy to be here with you, Laura. We always learn from each other as we present these things. So this is going to be a learning fest for all of us. If you'd love to follow along with the presentation, the link is on the top of your screen right there. And it's also on every single slide. So this probably is a slide deck or a published slide deck that you'd want to bookmark because we've got some tips and tricks that you may or may not know about that we're going to showcase today. So let's go on to the agenda. And here it is. It is jam-packed, and we only have about 28 minutes to cover it. We'll make sure we do. The Gemini Youth Experience. We'll talk about safety and security and see what it looks like on the student end. And we're also going to provide you some resources. Let's say, for example, because, you may or may not have these features, like the Gemini features, enabled for your students. So just a disclaimer, you may or may not have it depending if your Google admin turns it on or depending on where your school or district is at in their generative AI Gemini journey. Then we'll venture into Canvas and guided learning. We did showcase Canvas last week, and I think, or a few weeks ago, and one of the biggest questions was, how do I share these creations, these games, these simulations? We're going to show you how you can share them today with Google Sites. And then we'll talk about guided learning, one of my favorite features that came out with Gemini. Then we'll also look at Notebook LM and then how to create one. And then we'll showcase how to share a Notebook LM with our students. Can we do it? I think we
I think we
can.
can do it. All the things.
All the things. Here we go, everybody. So the Gemini Youth Experience, safety and security is our number one priority, Google's number one priority. And just know all of the enterprise grade protections you have with Google Workspace for Education also carries over to Gemini. So we always say, if you're going to use Gemini in the classroom, make sure you're using it or your students are using it under the Google Workspace for Education accounts, okay? Private by design, your data is your data. There's nobody on the back end who's reading your chats, and the model isn't learning from it as well, okay? So all that is private. And Gemini supports compliance like FERPA, COPA, HIPAA, FedRAMP, GDPR, and more. You name it, you have those protections, and we're compliant with all that, okay? As long as you're using your Google Workspace for Education, that's why we want to make sure we're utilizing those accounts when we're interacting with Gemini. Okay, so this is a handy dandy slide because, man, Google has created and curated a bunch of different resources depending on where you are and where your students are in their Gen AI Gemini journey. So we have a few resources here. This image, you can click on it and it's going to lead you to a PDF. For example, this one right here is the AI literacy lesson plan guide. You have it right there. So if you need some ideas or inspiration of how to introduce this topic to your students, Google has got you covered. We also have another guide right here for 2nd to 8th graders. Okay, so digital literacy, it's always important, and especially when it comes to into this new world of generative AI, we want to make sure we are training and showcasing the proper and responsible ways of using generative AI. So Google has created those resources for us. But wait, there's always more. So if you click on Learn More right here, it's a hyper PDF or a hyperdoc, if you will, of different resources that Google has created for us. And I don't know about you, Lori, but this is one of my favorite ones
My
right
favorite.
here.
Yep, my
Like we're
favorite.
gonna we're gonna go over 2 or 3 ways today, but if you need more ways, 100 plus ways to use Gemini Notebook LM, if you click on that link right there, you'll get to a view only slide deck so you can learn more. Okay. And in the event that you forget everything that we tell you today, not to worry. This page has got you. All right. So here we go. Now I'm going to change my view to a student view. So you know exactly what your students will see if they have Gemini enabled for them. Okay. So I'm going to switch views right here. Aha, it works. My magical keys. I'm using a Chromebook Plus, by the way. I was able to switch between profiles with ease. And here is the student view of Gemini. Okay. Right off the bat, it looks very similar to what you see if you have it as an educator. The menu here is the same. Students have access to explore gems. They can see their recent chats here on the left. But what's a little bit different is what we see here in the middle. So students can upload images to give Gemini more information when they're chatting with Gemini, whereas in the educator view, we can pull from our drive and pull from our computer. Here we can upload images. Students also have 2 tools within Gemini that they can use. They can use the Gemini chat as is, but they also have access to guided learning, and they also have access to Canvas. They don't have access to deep research, and they don't have the ability to create images. So that's one of the safeguards that's in place when a student is using Gemini. So for example, if I go here and I ask Gemini to create an image of a corgi playing pickleball. I always have to mention pickleball because I'm addicted to it. And there's that guardrail right there. Sorry, I'm still learning to create images for you, so I can't do that yet. Okay.
I'm gonna have to go do that in my adult account later so I can see what it actually
Yeah. And then
creates.
you share with me because that'd be
Yes.
pretty difficult with such short, stubby legs and arms. Like, how are they going to reach for the ball? But anyways, I'd love to see what Imagine or Nano Banana comes up with. So yes, students have access again to guided learning Canvas. They also have, and this is new, this change. It used to show 2.5 Flash and 2.5 Pro, but now it's 2.5 Flash is fast and 2.5 Pro is the more.
No, it's now
Thank you.
3.0, Daryl.
3.0.
Today they unveiled the new 3.0 model.
Well, you're seeing it today,
See?
ladies and
Yes.
gentlemen, right here, right now, the 3.0 model. So let's see what it produces for us when we create with Canvas. Okay. So what I want to do is showcase from the student perspective how we can utilize Canvas. And I've got some pretty unique prompts that we kind of mustered up and created. And last time we were here, we're like, okay, pretty standard. We can make a quiz, right? An interactive quiz. But let's kind of push the envelope a bit. And we're going to continue the theme. We talked about ecology last time we were here. If you want to watch that EDU on air, the recording is out there, so you can watch that after this. But if you remember our conversation from before, we were talking about ecology. So I have here a prompt that we've created. And this prompt is to create a simulator to simulate the interactions between producers and consumers and to showcase over time what would happen to those populations. So I have this prompt here. I'm going to just paste it in there.
Nope, don't paste it in just yet, Daryl. What do you got to
Okay.
remember to do?
What
New
do I have
chat.
to? New chat. That's
New
right.
chat.
Thank you. It's like, what do I do?
You're
What did I
welcome.
forget? Thank you. Because we did this last
I
time.
do
and
it all the time. It's the
doing
biggest thing. Yeah.
a corgi pickleball mashup with our simulator. So I'm glad you caught me there. So I'm doing a new chat. Okay. And then we're going to activate Canvas. And I'm going to paste the prompt right there. Create a food chain simulator that shows the relationship between producers, primary consumers, and secondary consumers over time. So like I say, if you can dream it, you can make it happen. So we're not making a quiz this time. We're actually going to create a simulator. And we've done this multiple times. And every time we've gotten a different type of simulator, but it still works out. So I'm kind of curious to see what we get here.
I do like that it's always different because you never know. This is the part where you never know what you're going to get.
Right. It's like improv.
It is.
In a way.
It is.
But so far, we've been getting great results. So it's doing its thing. And our friend Courtney, she calls it vibe coding, right? Vibe coding. So it's doing the coding for us in the back end. I don't know anything about coding. I mean, I know somewhat a little bit about it, but just using a prompt, I am able to code and create a simulation. So right here, the coding is happening on the back end, and it's going to generate the simulator for me. And I know Lori disappeared for a second, but she's a CTE teacher, and she told me, like, you know what, this would be a great way. I know if students don't know how to code, they can go in the back end here and just try to interpret what's going on. So as a CTE teacher, if you're a programming teacher, they can go back here and interpret what is happening and how is this working. Okay, so here's my simulator. So I start off with 800 producers. We got some consumers and secondary consumers. If I hit start, what's going to happen over time? Primary consumers are eating the plants, but run out of plants. The primary consumers, the population is going to go down because the secondary consumers are coming in. And once the primary consumers are out, then secondary consumers will also disappear. So it's a pretty cool simulator right here. Another example that I want to show is this roll the dice story starter. So if your students are needing ways to, to create a new story and they need inspiration, we can create a story randomizer. So I'm going to start a new chat here and show you this one. And Lori and we had fun playing with this. So I'm going to paste it right there. So create a roll the dice story starter with 3 separate randomizers, one for a main character, one for setting, and one for a conflict. And Lori told me earlier that she was going to steal this for one of her examples. But let's see what it creates for us. But I would not know how to create this on my own, but I'm using Canvas to code it and create it for us. And there it is on the back end. Vibe coding is what our friend Courtney calls it.
It's the best kind of coding, right?
Yeah. And then I mentioned to the audience, Lori, before you, as you left, like you had mentioned something about you can get your students as a CTE teacher to kind of go back in the back end and interpret the code and figure out what's going on here. So
absolutely. Like one great way is grab that code and say, what do you think this is going to create? And see if that is what it created. Go in and look at the code and link it up with what you're teaching in the classroom.
Perfect. So here's my roll the dice story starter. Roll for a new story. The character is a space pirate with a secret, setting a deserted space station, and the conflict is a powerful magical curse. This might be a start of something new here. But so the question that we had last time we were here is, okay, so we've created it. Like, how do we share it? So let's say you're the teacher who created this roll the dice story starter. How would we share this with our students? So there's that button right there where you can share, but that's not exactly sharing the actual interactive. This is actually sharing the code. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy the code. Okay. And what we've learned here is we can use Google Sites to embed the code and publish the creation. So I'm going to go here, hit sites.new. I forgot about that .new. I was typing sites.google.com earlier. I was like, oh, sites.new. That works out. So it's going to create a brand new site for me. And Sites been around for a while. We're blowing the dust off Sites for a bit. But here it is, Sites. Embed is an option. So I can embed, and I can embed the code. So I'm selecting embed code and pasting it there and hitting next. Okay. So now I have the ability to insert that code into my site. Right there it is. I can publish the site, share with my students, and they'll be able to interact with this this interactive. Okay.
Quickest website creation ever there, Daryl. Less than a minute.
There you go. Less than a minute, and I've got myself an interactive roll the dice story starter that I can share with my students. Okay, so think about it with students. Like, they're creating prototypes. They're creating simulators. They're creating websites with it or interactives with it. And again, it's like if the simulator or the tool, the interactive, isn't exactly what they're looking for, they continue that conversation with Gemini to improve that product, their prototype. Okay, powerful tool, powerful feature right there. Okay, all right, feeling good? How are we on time? We're doing good. We're doing good. So we're going to move on. I'm going to go back to the presentation to make sure I am on track here. We did talk about Canvas. We showed you how to share your creation. Let's talk about guided learning. And one of our fears when using generative AI or Gemini is the removal of critical thinking and depending too much on the tool. Well, Google has created a feature called guided learning where we kind of flip the use of Gen AI, where generative AI is now probing the student or asking the student's question, unlocking understanding and knowledge through guided learning. So I'm going to show you how this works. And if you're out there, you too can play as well. There is a link right here. If you click on it, it's going to open up. It's going to have guided learning already enabled with the prompt there. Okay, let me do this for the sake of consistency. I'm actually going to try it out with a student view. Okay, so there you go. As a student, I clicked on the link. I have guided learning enabled, and I already have the prompt there. I am a 7th grader. Help me understand the 10% rule. And man, I've taught middle school science for quite a bit, and I had the hardest time showcase or teaching students how the 10% rule works, but guided learning does a better job at it. So if I hit submit, I've got the prompt in there, I've got guided learning enabled, I hit submit, and notice the conversation and how it kind of shifts the onus on the user. Here you go, exploring the concept, understanding the flow, clarifying the core concept, defining the approach. Here it is. So it's telling me a little bit about ecology, food chains. And we mentioned earlier, we can't produce images, but it's creating an image. Well, it's pulling a stock image. That's pretty accurate. No hallucinations right there from Shutterstock. And it's telling me now, okay, to get started, which of these paths sound most interesting to you? So as a student, I can then scaffold and figure out, okay, what do I want to learn more about? So let's talk about where the 90% goes. So I always wonder, okay, where does it go? Okay, so I continue this conversation, and Gemini is probing me as a student to understand this on my own, unlocking some prior knowledge, and so forth. Okay, we're not getting the answer right away. Okay, it's almost like differentiating the learning for us a bit. Okay, so then we continue this conversation, and it's all built in within Gemini. Okay, another food chain energy flow, and then the conversation continues. So it's asking us a question. What are some specific things a fox would use its energy for meeting the rabbit that wouldn't get passed on to a wolf that might hunt it? And notice, as a student, this is important, I can click here and show and see exactly where this information is coming, okay? And I can also, as a student, check the response. Sometimes it shows it, sometimes it doesn't. If I continue this conversation, it pops up as well. But you also have the sources here, okay? Pretty cool. And I don't know if you're all wondering, okay, so Daryl, Lori, how did you make it where I can create that link for my students just to click on and get there right away? So we got a little trick for you, a little hack. And I learned this while I was studying for my Gemini certification. So right here on this page is the tip. So anything that you add after the equal sign to this specific link will be the prompt for guided learning. So I can just copy this link, type in whatever I want. So let me see if I can copy that link and show you how that works. I'm going to copy this link really quick. And as a teacher, I'll have a new Chrome browser, type in, I don't know, flow of energy right after the equal sign, and I hit enter. It's going to automatically enable guided learning with the prompt already there. So think of the possibilities, right? So with you can create, you know exactly what your students want to learn. You have that prompt for them. Put it in Google Classroom as a link to share. Okay.
Especially if it's a long prompt, you don't have to wait for them to type it all in. You can reload it there for them. Yep.
Exactly. So again, that trick right there, it's on that slide. All you have to do is copy the stem of that link and then type in whatever you want them to prompt. So pretty powerful feature right there. Okay. All righty. All right, Laura, I gave you 10 minutes to talk about Notebook LM and Google Classroom. I'm here with you. I'll demo whatever you need me to demo.
Perfect. So Notebook LM is available for students and staff. And what we're going to look at is how you can create some great notebook LMs for your students and how you can easily share them with your students. So, Notebook LM is there for you to be able to create kind of that walled garden, still like we were talking
I love
about
that.
before. So, it's all based on the sources that you give it. So, it's not pulling from the internet like Gemini is doing, it is only pulling from the sources that you give it. So, one of the great ways that you can do it is create some study guides for your students. So, you can upload in all of the resources that you're using to teach with. One of the ways that I thought about this is perfect for your AP students that are preparing for that AP exam at the end of the year. Give it all of those great resources that you're using in the classroom, and then you can create some really great materials from it. Students can interact with it as they choose. So, Daryl, let's go on over to Notebook LM.
Sure. Okay. Notebooklm.google.com. Right there.
Perfect. You can also get to it from your waffle. And Daryl is going to click on that create new notebook button so we can make a new one.
Okay.
And this is where it's going to get you to put in those sources. So I like the thinking of the more sources the better, because if
Mm.
you only put one or two things in, it's not really going to be able to give you as much information because it's only pulling from those two sources. So you can pull from your Google Drive, you can upload files from your computer, you can add in links to specific websites, to YouTube videos, you can copy and paste text in. You get up to 50 resources within this notebook that you can add in. And there's even a discover sources button up there in the top right hand corner. If you click on that, you can just type in some of those keywords to help you find even more sources that you may need. So we're going to do some food chains, food webs, our
Okay.
favorite topic.
Yeah.
Everybody loves a good food chain. I do.
I enjoy teaching it as a seventh grade
Yeah,
science teacher.
it's a good one.
All
And so
right.
it's searching the internet, looking for some different sources. It's going to give you some ideas. From here, Daryl can view them all, and they're all checked. So that means they're all going to be included unless you go in and select the ones you do or don't want.
Okay.
And right next to that
10% rule.
checkbox, Daryl, there's a little button. And this is a new term for Daryl. He's never heard this before. I call that button the sharrow. It's
The
like a little
Shero.
sharing
I
arrow.
love that.
It's the sharrow.
Let's
So if
click
you
on a
click on that
Shero.
Sharrow, it'll open that link in a new tab so you can actually view the information, make sure that it's valid, make sure that it is all good
Oh,
information to include in there. Look at those
I feel like
graphics.
that graphic I've seen before.
Probably stock image,
Yeah,
right?
stock image for sure.
Yeah. So once he picks those, he'll click import.
Okay.
And then he can also continue to add sources. So top left-hand side over on that left sidebar for sources. So now he can grab from his Google
Now
Drive.
let's pull from Google Drive because I know as educators we have folders upon folders. So I have here
Absolutely.
an ecology folder. So I'll go in here and put in my
So you can grab all of your slide decks. You can grab uh, docs and sheets that you may have for your students as well.
okay. I also saw the ability we can add YouTube videos as well, right?
Yes. So on those links on the YouTube video, you have to have the direct link.
Mm-hmm.
So not searching here. So just a direct link to that video as well. And it's pulling the transcript from the YouTube
Got you.
video to include that information into the notebook. And you can see it's adding those in. And in the middle is your chat area. So this works very similarly to the Gemini chat window. You can start asking questions or it prompts you with some examples, and it's using just your sources to find the
Mm-hmm.
response. And in your response, it's actually going to give you what look like footnotes to me. So little
There you go.
numbers,
Yeah.
and those numbers show you where that information came from.
And so it's minimizing like any type of bias or hallucination because we know we've vetted the sources that we provided, and it's grounded on those sources. And
hmm
this is very useful having that there. Okay, cool. And you had mentioned too, we want to save this as a note for you, right?
Yes. So in the chat, whenever you're doing this chat portion, if you want students to get that same question and answer, you're going to click Save to Note, and that adds it into the studio which is on the right-hand side, and that studio is all of the resources that you're generating for your students. Because when you share this with students, all they are going to be able to do, it's like a view only link basically. So they're only going to be able to view the information. They can interact with the interactive pieces, they can interact with the chat, but they're not going to be able to generate their own studio resources, and they're not going to be able to add more sources over on the left hand side.
Gotcha. Cool.
So that audio overview is one of my favorites. And if you notice now, it's got that pencil on it. If you click that pencil, you can choose the type of audio overview. This is that podcast that it generates for you. So it can be brief, a critique, a debate. You can choose the length. You can even choose the language. So if you've got students in your classroom that speak other languages other than English, we can add in a Spanish podcast. And Daryl even added in what these hosts should be focusing on, which is just the 10% rule. So this is going to generate just a 10% rule podcast in Spanish for your students.
Very cool.
Perfect there for you. And it takes a little while to generate that. So make sure that you are generating these resources a little bit ahead of when you're ready to share them with students. So they'll be ready for them already. And you can generate up to 3 audio overviews per day. So if you want more than those 3 within that notebook, then just make sure that you kind of spread out when you are generating those. Lots of other great things here. You can generate flashcards, quizzes for your students so they can check their knowledge. Video overview is also there as well. And those reports are also really great to dig into
Very
as
cool.
well.
So let's showcase how to share this with our students.
Yes.
So if we created something, how do we share with our students?
So let's show them the way that they're probably used to sharing, which is they would go to the share button. And notice here, you either add people or you copy a link. Now we're going to show you why you don't want to do this with students. So Daryl, click copy link.
Okay, I copy the link.
And then go over to our student account and paste that link in. So if we just gave this link to our students, this is what they would see. So imagine getting 30, 60, 100 requests for access, which we don't want. So we're going to give it to them through Google Classroom, and they're not going to get that request for access note. So if you go into Google Classroom, jump into one of your classes, you could now add in notebook LMs through that create button. So you just simply click create like you're creating an assignment. You can add in a notebook or a gem. So both of those can be added.
Mhm.
Up there at the top, Daryl's going to click select existing because we have a notebook already. He's going to go and find that notebook. When he selects it, he's going to click attach. It's also going to open the notebook up in a new tab so that you can actually preview it as well.
Mhm.
And now that notebook is sent to students as a material within Google Classroom. And when they go in to their Google
Really quick.
Classroom,
And what we learned too, if you update the notebook on your end, it's also going to update it
yes,
for your students.
yes. So if Daryl goes in and adds any additional resources or uh, studio items over on the right-hand side, it will update live for your students. So then now Olivia just has to click on open, and now she can see all of the sources. The chat is in there. I think the chat staying consistent across usage is new. Used to it would delete every time, but now it stays in there. So you can see that chat is in there. And then those sources that Daryl has
Right there.
created. So flashcards, quizzes, and that audio overview is in there as well.
So this is one that we prepped ahead of time.
We
So if I
did,
wanted
yes.
you, I don't remember that being what
Like,
you
that
just
was
created,
quick.
Daryl. That was quick. No, we
Yeah.
so have the muffins ready in the oven, right? So
Exactly.
but everything that you created as a teacher, and we also learned too, I don't know, we can go back. We have a little bit of time to
Yes, go
mention
back and show them those chat.
right here, this configure notebook.
Yes.
So we talked about guided learning. There's also a learning guide conversation style within Notebook LM that you can select. We also had fun with this, Lori, where we did, okay, respond as a Shakespeare poet and respond as Shakespeare. And now every time the student interacts with your notebook, it's going to come as a result as, oh, as Shakespeare. And
It'll sound just like it. It did.
right.
And this will be for everybody that's accessing your notebook. The kids can't change this. You're the one that's setting it up for that notebook.
Correct. 12:29. Look at us go.
We did it.
We
We did
covered
it.
everything here, the Google Classroom integration. If you want to learn more about that process, it's right over there. We've got some upcoming sessions tomorrow. Tomorrow, come back for Explore Google for Education, educator programs, training, recognition, and communities. And then December 10th, Gemini AI features you didn't know you needed. So more Gemini coming up in December. Thank you again for joining us. Lori, it's always a pleasure presenting
Yes,
with you. I
same.
learn so much every time we plan for these. Again, thank you, everybody. You have a wonderful rest of your day. Oh, forgot. If you're still there, there's a feedback form.